Corvus is a hero introduced in patch 40, with his complexity and intricate mechanics rivaling Geraldo the Shopkeeper. I'll explain every single spell of this Dark Acolyte and give good use cases for his spells. Firstly, his positioning. Corvus gains a mana by cursing bloons around him and consumes it by casting spells on himself and his spirits with global range. Put him at the front of the track, but keep in mind we'll manipulate his positioning later in the game. We'll go on to abilities first, as we'll touch on them when talking about certain spells. Soul Harvest. Corvus swings a scythe around him, dealing damage to bloons and gathering mana relative to damage dealt. Great if you're missing mana for crucial spells, or if you want to increase their lifespan if they require constant uptime. While not optimal, you can spam the ability, as it doesn't activate if bloons aren't around it. Spiritwalker. Budget Darkshift. Useful for repositioning on multi-lane maps, but I'll mention it more in the spells section. Dark Ritual. Stronger version of Soul Harvest that also generates mana. It has longer cooldown compared to Soul Harvest and deals persistent AoE damage. Great if you need a huge burst of mana. Onto spells. Spear. Electricity surges from the spirit, dealing decent group damage, similarly to Druid's Heart of Thunder. Purple bloons are immune to this attack, just like the spirit's base attack. The spell costs mana and consumes it until the spell is turned off. Use it for rounds with a lot of fast bloons early on, and later for bonus group damage. Repel. The spirit pushes back bloons around them. It's not the best spell out there, but can help you out when other spells are on cooldown and make more time for your other towers to deal damage. Nourishment. Corvus consumes all his mana to gain experience, gaining money if fully leveled up. Use it if you're confident you don't need his skills at the time, and there are no hard rounds coming up. Can snowball your hero level if you manage your mana correctly. Echo. The spirit splits in two, doubling its damage output, including other spells that influence the spirit. On its own, it's not spectacular, but when combined with other spells, it can shred any round you have problem with. Manage your mana properly, and this spell will become your best friend. Haste. Speeds up the spirit. Nearly useless on single lane maps, but very handy on multi-lane maps like Bloody Puddles or Dark Dungeon, where the spirit wastes most of its time traveling. Not much to add. You can safely ignore this spell on easier maps. Soul Barrier. Corvus consumes mana to preserve lives lost, one of the few mechanics in the game that can prevent you from leaking bloons in chimps. Run saving but situational. Use it if you're panicking and fear losing the run. Keep in mind that lives can be generated during the uptime of this ability. Trample. Basically Soda's sword charge. Incredibly useful for dense bloon rounds like 63 or 78. Amazing at clearing out Moab insights if you don't have decent cleanup. Unlike other spells, Trample can deal damage to turtles. A very handy spell, keep it in mind for the rest of the run. Frostbound. Spirit freezes bloons around them, a niche spell that can help with stalling difficult rounds, like 63, for other spells to do their job. Found the most use combining it with Trample for clearing out rounds, or with Repel for stalling. Aggression. Spirit becomes angry, gaining attack speed and size, good for single target damage and amplifying other spells. Keep in mind that this spell costs constant mana, so be careful when using it with others of similar type. Vision. Allows Corvus and the spirit to attack and reveal Kama bloons. Unlike Ninja's counter-espionage, the spirit doesn't need to damage the bloon, merely fly over it. Combo detection is always good, but don't rely on it too much, due to its long cooldown. Ember. The spirit starts throwing fire embers onto the track, acting like mini wall of fire. Great for group rounds, except purples. Corvus can't seem to catch a break with those. Ancestral Might, a very powerful ability that combines Corvus and his spirit into a T-Rex-like attack, devastating Moabs and ceramics alike. It's costly and situational, but very powerful. This spell introduces a concept of the spirit merging with the book, which blocks the usage of most other abilities. For simplification purposes, we'll refer to them as channeling. Malevolence, a channeled ability that creates an inferno ring around Corvus. With low initial cost and a continuous uptime, this ability can safely be used for dense bloon rounds that circle around Corvus. Spiritwalk helps with that, being able to teleport Corvus to a more favorable position. Keep in mind to cancel it if you want to use other abilities like Trample. Storm. The spirit spews blades from itself, proving to be a potent spell for Moab shredding. Use with aggression to pop the mob on round 40 quickly. Combined with Echo, this combination can provide very powerful DPS at the cost of high mana uptime. Recovery, a spell with the most depth in my opinion. Corvus and his spirit stop attacking to recharge his spells faster. I found the most success combining it with Nourishment, spamming both to farm experience on easy rounds of 50s to 70s. It can easily push you into later levels, and the last powerful spell, Overload. Corvus explodes with energy, dealing tons of damage around him, but rendering him useless for the next couple of seconds. Great for Moab cleanup when Trample is in cooldown. Now that we're finally over with his spells, we can talk about his role in the game. Corvus is a Swiss army knife, just like Geraldo, but instead of using money to amplify other monkeys' abilities, Corvus takes a more selfish approach, centering his utility on himself. Basically, another Soda of heroes. But his high skill cap provides him with unique abilities he can combine in interesting ways. After level 13, Corvus stops getting new spells, instead increasing their power drastically, becoming an absolute powerhouse. I found the most success using him on expert multi-lane maps, a great additional power on the field to save up for tier 5s to carry the rest of the Chimps games. His Soul Barrier is the only way of protecting your life counter directly, proving very useful for maps like #ouch or Quad, where leaking stray balloons is quite common. All in all, a very powerful hero if used correctly. Might not be as flashy as Brickle's proper Megamine usage or Adora's absurd scaling power, but if you like making the most out of the resources given to you, Corvus is your guy.